Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Tarragon here. And today we're going to be talking about the Star Wars Acolyte show. Now I know that I was supposed to do a much more in-depth analysis of this at one point, but this time around we're going to do it a little bit differently. Instead of doing a deep, seated, in-depth analysis, we're just going to kind of simply just talk about how bad this fucking show was. But let me break it down to you like this. During the time I was a huge blue pillar and I was super woke-ish or woke or whatever, but then I started growing a pair of balls and realizing that I'm so tired of having to defend shitty shit that's really bad, and especially things that are disturbing or just evil. Now, I don't mean to be to criticize the people who made this show morally, or to even criticize the morals of this show, but holy fuck is this show pure evil. Just imagine if you made some badass shit with balls. Han Solo's got testicles. Luke Skywalker is a complete, wise badass by the time it's Return of the Jedi. And all of a sudden someone's like, oh my god, the clones are really cool. But what if we made them pink? And what if we made a clone trans? It would be revolutionary. But mostly groundbreaking. It's really exciting. I'm really excited. It would be great. We don't really know if this is a good idea to add. Well, if you don't, then you're being a transphobe. So you're a bigot. Why don't you just add it in there? So because of douchebags who have no penis or no balls or whatsoever in Hollywood right now, or douches with no balls, then yeah, because of that, we have to deal with this kind of shite in Disney and Star Wars and whatnot. And if they just had more people in Hollywood with balls, then we wouldn't have to deal with this shite. But they don't, because they want to call you a transphobe, because you're like, bro, why is this here? Why is there a transgender clone? Because it would be revolutionary. It would be groundbreaking. It would be, that's why. And it's a crock. And but aside from the fact that it's a crock, it's a fucking nightmare. So what exactly is about Acolyte that's so bad? Now, we could talk about the woke elements all fucking day, but let's just talk about how bad this plot is, aside from its woke shite. So, basically, this show is pure evil, because looking at Star Wars and doing something like this to Star Wars is terrible. First off, this show does the whole thing. You know when they always want to sympathize with the villain and stuff like that? And for some reason, if you've ever played The Last of Us 2, shows like this always obsess over sympathizing the villain to the point in which they denounce the hero. But in this show, they do it differently. They want to contaminate the hero by making the hero basically be a fucking villain in the show. By making her lust over the dark side, barely do redeemable shit in the story, and having her sister be it's just so much shit. So basically, instead of her actually choosing a definitive side of being a true Jedi, she's basically neutral because the Jedi rejected her because they saw her and were like, we can't tell whether you're good or bad, so we just can't take you or train you anymore. So because of that, she's basically neutral, and then they accuse her of a crime that she didn't do, which is not fair, I'll give her that. But her reaction to it is so neutral that by the time she gets to this Sith dude, she's ready to basically just succumb fully to the dark side without any, and it's like, dude, if you have a main character who's willing to succumb to the dark side, the antagonist has already succumbed to the dark side, and you already have her sister, who is a Sith Acolyte, succumbing to the dark side. Who the fuck is the good guy? Soul? But Soul is not the main character, so who gives a fuck? That's what makes this show so ass. There's no good. There's no true heroism or virtue. Kind of like what Andy Pants said about some of these new modern games. Well, this is true about this new modern show. There's no true good in Star Wars Acolyte, but there's also no true evil. There's no true evil in this show, but there's also no true good either. You never saw virtue. You never saw hope. You never saw justice. But you never saw evil. You never saw spite. You never really saw hate. It's just really disappointing. Wait. You see, when you have no definitive hero in your show and nobody is actually truly good, that is shite. Do you know why we love Luke Skywalker? Look, Anakin Skywalker, I know he fell to the dark side, but I love his character. Anakin is a complex, fleshed out character. I love his voice, his mannerisms, and his characterization in the prequels specifically. Clone Wars can suck balls because that shit basically retconned the entire EU before Disney even got their hands on it. Sorry, but these are the facts. Anywho, Anakin was a great character. He's a phenomenal character. However, I look up to Luke Skywalker, and he is canonically stronger than Anakin because he took more control and wisdom with the Force with that same Chosen One level ability. So, I mean, he's really good, and he's just a huge inspiration. He's one of my greatest life inspirations. He's one of the greatest inspirations in Star Wars. He's one of my favorite all-time Star Wars characters. I mean, I even put him up above Han Solo, and that's a big deal because Han Solo is a complete Chad, so that's a lot. That's saying a lot. So, the thing is, Star Wars has definitive heroes. Shows back in the 1980s, you know, the time where there was the patriarchy, when there was white supremacy. Ow, my butt, my butt hurts. You know, back when what they like to call the quote-unquote patriarchy and stuff like that, during the 1980s, there was a definitive moral standard of what was good and what was evil. This bad guy was clearly an evil antagonist. In Blade Runner, in Blade Runner, maybe it's more gray or whatever, but it's stuff like Lord of the Rings. The 1970s Ralph Bakshi movie. Okay, this is the 70s. Sorry, but you get it. The 1970s Ralph Bakshi movie of Lord of the Rings, Saruman and the Dark Lord Sauron, yada yada yada. They were fucking evil, and they were definitively fucking evil. The orcs were fucking evil. The good guys, Aragorn was great. He was a good guy. Frodo was great. He was a good guy. There was a definitive good and bad. It wasn't just everything is gray. Moral ambiguity is just short for evil. Star Wars Acolyte doesn't even do that well either, because let me just get into it. Like, you know the character who's from the Matrix movie, who plays Trinity from Matrix? She is the most ball-busting feminist lady I've ever seen in my life. All she does is bust Soul's balls every 5 seconds, even though Soul is actually a nice person. And despite the fact that he's so kind and nice, she just busts his balls all day, and it's like a nightmare. She's also very detached and barely has any emotion, and what makes me laugh is that people talk shit about the Star Wars prequels and said, those movies don't have any emotion, those movies have no soul. Well, fuck you, because Star Wars Acolyte has no emotion, Star Wars Acolyte has no soul. So how could you say that about the prequels when this motherfucking project is guilty of that shit? So that's another issue with this show. There's no emotion, there's no passion, people don't even have emotion. Something's going on. The building's burning down. People are dying. One of our Jedi has been possessed. Fight it. Fight it with everything you've got. I gotta bust his balls because he's a man. And I gotta show that it's my world now. Feminism. Garbage. So, this is the kind of shite that Disney wants to give to us. And you have the nerve to get pissed off when fans complained about The Last Jedi. When fans complained about fucking Kenobi or the Book of Boba ass. And when people complain about all this shite, we had a right. We had a reason. This is why. Oh my god. My god. This show is so soulless. It has no soul. Every time something happens, nobody cares. It's like when Joker was like, when things happen, nobody bats an eye. But one little over here. I'm just kidding. This is shite. And sorry. And there's so many different reasons. So, as the show progresses, one thing that the show doesn't really understand very well is like, okay, so there was a character in the show who felt bad about his actions, and she talks him and manipulates him into killing himself. And I was like, okay, this was poorly written. This other poorly written, the execution was poorly written. Like, the way they did it was so stupid. This dude spent like 30 years trying to accept the mistakes he made in the past, but all it took was one dumbass, like, girl who just shows up out of fucking nowhere and doesn't even use a lightsaber, and suddenly he's gonna fall to, this is gay. Anyway, so then there's other stupid shite. Like, when they're children, it's annoying. Osha, over here, Osha. Oh my god, shut up. It's so annoying. And like, people complain about young Anakin when he was a kid, and it's like, Anakin wasn't even annoying like that. Okay, he had a few corny lines, okay, but at least he wasn't fucking annoying as hell like these characters were. So if you're gonna complain about a Phantom Menace and say Anakin's annoying because he's a kid, stay on the ship, Anakin. Then if you're gonna do that shit, then you have to be fair and complain about the shite of Acolyte. How annoying it is to hear them go on and on about Osha. Osha. That was annoying. Not only are these scenes cringy and annoying as fuck, but remember the force pushing scene with the lady who force pushed the girl in Acolyte and all this other shit? Ugh, total cringe. What a bunch of garbage. Good God. Give me a fucking break. It was a nightmare. It looked like they were just playing pretend inside of a fucking preschooler's school or something. It was embarrassingly bad. This is some of the worst I've ever seen in Star Wars history. Then the girl boss, black magic using feminist lady. And this is what I mean. Now, Star Wars, just like the country right now, basically, in terms of our values and morals, we have no morality. We have no values. We have to find our morals and values again. So Star Wars has fallen into the same Marxist feminist shite, where now there's no morality. So that means that black magic, which is basically satanic magic, ritual, or Sith magic, right? A black magic, Sith magic user is suddenly deeper, much stronger in tune with the Force than actual Jedi, to the point in which they could create life. What the fuck kind of shit is this? If you're gonna create life, wouldn't it come from the light side of the fucking Force, like it did like it did with Shmi Skywalker as she represented the virgin birth? But that was actually Plagueis. Guess what? That wasn't canon even when the EU was out. So you can't use that excuse. First off, that makes no sense. Why is it that the Sith is able to create life, but the Jedi can't create life, but then Anakin was a virgin birth who created life and he was a Jedi? That's stupid. That's just some nonsense. You're gonna sit there and act like the Sith can do the same things that the light side can do, and the light side can just do what the Sith do, because who cares? And the fact that, spoiler alert, at the end, and if this is true, I didn't finish it, but I've heard rumors that at the end of the show, spoiler alert, just letting you know, apparently Osha, now if you correct me if I'm wrong, she eventually performs the first Force choke on Soul. What a bunch of garbage. Why would you make the Jedi, the only Jedi, one of the few Jedis in the show, do the most evil, heinous act to one of the nicest characters in the show, and for no justifiable reason? Garbage. The whole point of evil is that there has to be a justifiable reason as to why the evil is there, or retaliation, or violence, or action. The whole point of action is that there has to be a fucking justifiable reason for the reaction, which Acolyte doesn't understand. Now let me give you this one final bout. When the twins are in, I'll give you a perfect example of how garbage this is and why these things are important. Shows need justification behind what is happening, behind the evil, the fighting, the war, the action. No justification means they're fighting for nothing, and no one cares. A great example of this is when Osha's twin sister said, she realizes that Osha realizes, I want to be a Jedi. I want to be a Jedi. I'm gonna go. When Osha's twin sister's like, no, you'll abandon our black magic, Sith-like fruit or whatever. Nah. And then she's like, come on, like, I want to be a Jedi. No, if you're gonna leave us, I'll kill you first. What? So, where did this come from? Why is it that all of a sudden she acts like she has this deep emotional bond with her sister, and we hear these corny shite scenes with cringe scenes and cringe acting forever, but all of a sudden, when she wants to be a Jedi, suddenly she wants to kill her? She wants to jump from 0 to 100, like a sociopath. Where the hell is this coming from? Where is the explanation for such shite? Why is this happening? Where's the justification for this radically change in behavior? What in the flippity flank fuck is this doing here? Why is she coming out of nowhere being evil for no reason? There is no justification for Osha's sister to want to kill her own sister. This is generic, one-dimensional evil for the sake of evil with no depth, no logic. Just the basics of storytelling is all people are looking for. Good God, that is why this show is shite. And I haven't even talked about the woke elements. Are you kidding me? The fact that the actress, who is a black woman, wants to sit here and make some shitty anti-white song about, oh, the evil white people, oh, my ass hurts, oh. What kind of shite is this? The fact that the actress makes this corny, shitty ass song, that's one of the worst songs in the history of the world ever, it's garbage. The fact that, the white people just mad because they not being included no more because you just don't want to be erased. Like, oh my God, shut the hell up. This is corny. This is shite. This is some of the corniest, most empty, wackest fucking music. Stop trying to virtue signal for other black people and wokies and shit and radical leftists just to make yourself feel better. When you're a rich ass lady and you make all this fucking money, and if you make all this fucking cash, then like, why the fuck are you sitting there acting like you understand the struggles of people who struggle in low income or middle class or just whatever, or poor people or impoverished people, when your fucking ass is wealthy as shit? So what the fuck do you know about struggle? Shut your retarded ass up. That's why your stupid ass is about to literally be remembered. Oh, this is what your career is going to be remembered for. Being in Star Wars Acolyte. Shut your goofy ass up. This song is corny, it's shite. And this is what these supposed celebrities are going to be remembered for. You got people being remembered for badass shit like Dusk, Ultra Kill, creating Doom. It's awesome. Creating Star Wars. George Lucas will be remembered forever for creating an entire legacy. Or what about Tom Vike? He'll be remembered forever for creating some of the greatest EU Star Wars stories ever. This dumbass bimbo is going to be remembered for playing as the main character in Star Wars Acolyte, for being a terrible actress and making the wokest song ever that's absolute shite. Oh my god. I just had to let that out. Fuck. This show is such garbage. It's terrible. Why are they doing this to us? Why are you giving us these awful shows that have no morals or no principles, that have no definitive good and evil, and are just absolute embarrassments of storytelling quality? Why do you have an actress playing in this show who talks about, oh, the evil white people, oh, my butt, oh, shut up. Stop being butthurt. Get butthurt, crybaby. Man, what a nightmare. That's why Acolyte was absolute shite. And someday I'll make a deeper analysis or whatever and whatnot. But right now I'm tired, so I'm making some fucking commentaries. You can call it slop content all you want, but you can kiss this ass because people have been making gaming commentary for years and the shit is timeless. So suck dicks. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. This was Tarragon, and I'm out this piece. Thank you for watching.